just outrageous.
Well, to be fair, for example, the great thing about America is it's highly competitive. It's easy to start a business. So we didn't, years ago, before everything, we didn't want to be too regulatory about like how we started the cell phone business. And so we got a lot of cell phone companies. We got coverage everywhere. We grew like crazy, but we didn't have uniform standards for where there'd be towers and how it would be connected. And as a result, we still have more cell phone interruption than any major country on earth. And then when we grew, we didn't continue to set aside a certain amount of money to invest in modernizing our infrastructure. We slowed down the rate at which we were building things, as I explained in this book. And so I think that it's time for us to remember that if you go all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, who finished the Intercontinental Railroad system, finished funding it while the Civil War was going on,
right,
and signed the Morrill Act, which established land in every state in America for public universities. Mm-hmm. We were just talking about the Alabama-LSU game.
Yeah.
That's the Morrill Act. Mm-hmm. The University of Arkansas is the oldest state university under the Morrill Act west of the Mississippi River. That was done by Abraham Lincoln in the middle of the Civil War. So you go back through, we've always been into these kinds of investments, and we sort of drifted away now. We got to get back to doing that. And we can put America back to work. And keep in mind, these kinds of investments generate lots of other jobs in the economy.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so one of the arguments the Republicans are beginning to make, as we're a year out now from the election, is that President Obama got what he wanted, everything he wanted almost, and here's where it got us. And Mitch McConnell has said it a few times, and yet you've been quoted as saying that Obama has done a better job than he's credited with in handling an economic. Better. So what's being misconstrued or misunderstood?
Well, first of all, he didn't necessarily get everything he wanted. Secondly, when he passed the stimulus bill, he was acting on the basis of the government data then available. A year after the stimulus bill passed, the final figures came out on the depths of the recession, which were, the recession actually bottomed out 6 months after he became president. And it turns out the GDP of America shrunk not 3.8%, but 7.5%. So what I say is that the stimulus bill helped the recession, helped put a floor under the recession, but couldn't lift us out of it. An $800 billion stimulus can't get you out of a $7 trillion hole. I think that also we've all suffered. I mean, I had to go back and study all this when it happened. I was trying to get a handle on it. We've all suffered from the experience of America through the last 3 or 4 recessions, that we got over it in a year, 6 months, whatever. If you look at historically, you can go back hundreds of years. These financial collapses take 5 to 10 years to get over. And if there's a housing collapse with the financial collapse, pushes it toward 10 years. The Japanese were in their slowdown period 10 years. Now, they could weather it because they had a 20% personal savings rate and the government spent all that money modernizing infrastructure. But they couldn't get out of it till they flushed their real estate debt, which is why I argue in the book we should put the pedal to the metal and push through the manufacturing debt. I mean, the housing debt.
So we talked a couple of years ago, and I asked you a question at the end about whether guys like you should be able to run again, because I will guarantee you we will get back to the office and we'll be flooded with emails and responses on Twitter. People will say, why can't this guy run for president in 2012? And of course you can't, because Republicans didn't want there to be another FDR back in the 1940s. Shouldn't it, though? Shouldn't a president be able to serve 2 terms, take some time off, and then run again? Shouldn't Americans have that choice?
Yes, I do. I believe that should be the rule. And I think that as a practical matter, you couldn't apply it to anyone who's already served. But if going forward, I personally believe that should be the rule, because look at President Reagan. He was 70 years old when he became president. John McCain was older than that when he ran for president. And he clearly had all this capacity.
Right.
People are living longer, they're developing greater capacity, so I've always thought that should be the rule, not to affect me or anyone who served, but going forward.
Other countries are able to do it. Winston Churchill, booted out after World War II, came back.
Parliamentary systems do it.
Right.
The great Gladstone served 4 times, the last time when he was 82 in England.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, in this era of instantaneous communication, we should worry more about getting our heads on straight about the nature of the problem and working our way out of it. I do think the president has done a better job than he's gotten credit for, but Americans hire presidents to win for them. He understands that, but they just need to understand that this is going to take some time to get out of, and we have to begin. And the only strategy that will work is one that A, is oriented toward the future, and B, relies on both the private sector and government to work together. That's the point of the book. With all the specifics, that's the point of the book.
Okay.
One of the key points he makes, you too can agree on, and you say that everyone who's betting against the United States in the past has lost.
Yeah,
they will continue.
We can get out of this.
They're going to lose again. Don't bet against America.
When I was a kid, I still remember vividly as yesterday, Nikita Khrushchev, then head of the Soviet Union, coming saying that he was going to bury the United States. He didn't mean in war. He meant they were going to outproduce us. They don't exist anymore. Then I remember when I became governor in the 1980s for the second time, and I said, we're going to build a manufacturing base here. We're going to grow manufacturing jobs. And everybody thought the Japanese were going to bury us, but they didn't. So this is very hard on younger people and very hard on middle-aged people without a college education who lost their jobs. This is horrible. I'm not trying to minimize the angst here, but there is a way out of it, and we've got to find it. So far, everybody who's bet on the United States, from the time when they said George Washington was a second-rate general and a modest surveyor with bad wooden false teeth, to the time when they said the Japanese were going to bury us, and now the Chinese are going to bury us. Yeah. So far, everybody's lost money. We've got to make sure they lose money again.
All right.
President Bill Clinton, thank you very much. The book is Back to Work: Why We Need Smart Government for a Strong Economy.